The book of Amos is one of the 12 minor prophets in the Old Testament of the Bible. It tells the story of a shepherd-turned-prophet who was called by God to deliver a message of judgment and warning to the people of Israel and their neighboring nations. It is a book that highlights the themes of social justice, accountability, and the consequences of disobedience to God's words. The book is set during a time of great prosperity in the kingdom of Israel under the reign of King Jeroboam II. However, despite the nation's seemingly successful state, there was widespread spiritual and moral decay among the people. The rich were becoming richer, while the poor were oppressed and neglected. They had turned away from God, indulging in idolatry and neglecting the poor and needy. Amos, a shepherd from the village of Tekoa, was chosen by God to speak against these injustices and call the people to repentance. Amos begins his message by declaring the judgment against the surrounding nations for their sins and injustices. He begins with Damascus, the capital of Syria, followed by Philistia, Tyre, Edom, and Moab. Each nation is described with its specific sins and the resulting punishment from God. This section establishes the idea of God's ultimate authority over all nations and that no one is exempt from judgment. The book then shifts its focus to the nation of Israel, who was also guilty of the same sins as the surrounding nations. Amos addresses the corrupt leaders, priests, and wealthy elite who were exploiting the poor for their own gain. He condemns their sins of greed, pride, and oppression of the less fortunate. Amos reveals that their religious rituals and lavish sacrifices were not pleasing to God because their hearts were far from Him. He also exposes the false prophets who were deceiving the people with messages of prosperity and peace, leading them further away from God. Amos highlights the social injustices in Israel, such as the buying and selling of the poor as slaves, the exploitation of vulnerable women, and the ill treatment of foreigners. He powerfully rebukes the people, saying, "For 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not revoke the punishment, because they sell the righteous for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals. They trample the head of the poor into the dust of the earth and turn aside the way of the afflicted." Amos 2, 6-7. Through this, Amos emphasizes that true righteousness is not found in religious practices, but in how one treats their fellow human beings. Amos then delivers a series of prophetic visions that portray God's coming judgment on Israel. These include locusts devouring the land, Amos 7:1-3, a drought, Amos 7:4-6, and a plumb line measuring the destruction of the kingdom, Amos 7:7-9. These visions are a call to repentance for the people of Israel. However, despite the warnings, they refuse to turn back to God and continue to live in their sins. The book concludes with a message of hope and restoration. Amos prophesies that after the punishment, God will restore the nation and bless them abundantly. The land will be filled with prosperity, and they will drink wine from their own vineyards and eat fruit from their own gardens. The kingdom of Israel will become stronger than ever before, and they will live in peace and prosperity. Through this, Amos reminds the people that despite their unfaithfulness, God is always ready to forgive and restore those who turn to Him with a sincere heart. The book of Amos teaches us important lessons about God's sovereignty, social justice, and the consequences of disobedience. It shows that God holds all nations accountable for their actions, and that true righteousness is found in obeying God's commands and treating others with love and compassion. The book also reminds us that God's justice may seem delayed, but it will surely come to pass. The message of hope and restoration at the end of the book gives us assurance that true repentance and restoration are always possible through God's mercy and grace.